Hey guys, Rich here, doing a video. Duh. Uh, so, a long time ago, I don't know how long you've been a subscriber of mine, but a long time ago I was working on a stop motion series called New Beginnings. This was like one of the first things I started doing when I was doing stop motion animations. They're really old, they're from like 2010, but you can watch them down in the description below. So New Beginnings was a story that I was working on kind of as I went when I was making the first 4 animations. I would just make a bit of the story as I would go and then hopefully have something that was coherent and entertaining. But then at one point I decided to try to make it a little bit bigger, and the project never got finished, and a lot of you were upset at the time. I know this has been a really long time to have any sort of like video related to that, but I kind of wanted to go over how the story, at least as best as I can remember, was going to go through the rest of the videos, and then how it was going to end. I figured some people might want to kind of know, fans from way back might want to be interested a little bit. So I wrote down some things that I remember. I had at one point profile documents for like all the main characters. I worked on an outline for the whole story, and I remember a good portion of it. I've since probably lost those files. I tried looking for them just to try to bring back a bunch of stuff. But what I did was I watched the videos and I was like, oh yeah, I was going to do this and I was going to do that. And I was like, oh yeah, wow, I really wish I would have actually finished the series. But for a variety of reasons, I didn't. One of them being I kind of let people's comments, the negative comments, really dig way too deep into my head. And they completely removed my motivation to continue the series. That might seem really stupid, but to anybody who ever really tries to make something, tries to be really creative, and then to have people critique it in a really brutal way that only like YouTube can allow, it really demoralizes you if you don't really believe in what you're working in. And at the time, I was doing it for fun, and to have people just bash it up, down, right, and center, kind of just killed it. And the thing is that when I look back and I think back, I had mostly like 98% positive comments, but I let the 1 or the 2% really get way too deep in my head, and it completely ruined it for everybody else and myself. So anyway, so there were going to be 3 main Spartans in the series. You had Tim, Kimbo, which were actually in the animations, and then Kyle. He was not. He was actually going to be, I had chosen the Steel ODST Spartan from the Halo 3 series. That was actually in my very first animation that I ever did. It was my first video I ever did of the drunk Spartan. So that was going to be the 3rd Spartan. You had Alfred, who is the artificial intelligence. It was referenced a little bit, I think, in part 4, that Tim and Alfred had worked together before, and I don't think I was going to really expand upon that in the series, but I kind of had written up a little bit of stuff that they had worked together, and that they had a love-hate relationship. Like they needed each other, but they didn't like each other. So it was just, something interesting to have as 2 characters having the back and forth. The Prophet, I cannot remember the Prophet's name. He was going to be a minor prophet. He was going to end up dying later on in the series. Same with the Brute chieftain, leader, captain, Brute captain. Maybe it was captain. I don't know. The Brutes didn't really matter. The whole point was you were going to have 3 main groups. You were going to have the Spartans trying to get off of the planet. They were trying to get Alfred off. Their whole mission had become, get a hold of Alfred, take him off the planet, because the Covenant have completely overrun everything, and just the UNSC has completely lost control. And then the series takes place during the timeline of Halo 2. So the elites ended up getting reports of what else was going on. They knew that the Covenant was going to try to kill them, so then they attacked first, and then the elites mostly got wiped out from their pre-attack to not be attacked. Yeah, something like that. And anyway, so then the elites end up being a second group. And then you have the Covenant, which was the Brutes, the Grunts, the Hunters, the Prophet, trying to capture Alfred while also trying to wipe out the elites if they even get in their way. The elites, because they realize that they're kind of in a really bad situation, decide that they're going to actually go to the Spartans because they know that the Covenant are after the Spartans. They know that the only way that they're going to have even remotely have a chance to get off the planet, because they can't secure a ship. There's like just a handful or 10 of them left on the planet. They need the Spartans' help to be able to get off the planet. So they're going to help get in the way of the brutes wiping out the Spartans. And then, so I think part 5 was actually even going to be the Spartans being attacked by a larger group of brutes. And then the elites were going to show up and bail the Spartans out. And then they had to kind of like, look, we're being hunted, you're being hunted, why don't we work out, make this work? You can get my people off the planet. We're going to make sure to add you extra support. Because at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of UNSC left. You pretty much just had Spartans, the 3, trying to get off the planet. Which then, once the elites show up, it really makes the brutes extremely angry, because now they're like, yeah, these jerks attacked us even though we were going to kill them because they were traitors. Now they're going to go help out the demons, and it just really amped up the intensity for the Covenant really trying to just continuously stalk after the Spartans, really trying to get Alfred, because they needed Alfred because he's the artificial intelligence. He's one of the same kind of level as Cortana, so he was a very smart AI. He was very powerful, and that they really wanted to obtain him because then all the kinds of secrets and all the kinds of data that they could get out of him would be tremendous. Not that Alfred would ever give it to them, because while he jokes about his frailty of life, because the smart AIs only can live for 7 years before they basically overload themselves and just at least at the time that was written, that was how the smart AIs functioned. He wouldn't let them have it. He acts really tough, but Alfred was very much concerned about humanity, was very much concerned about his own existence, but not at the expense of other good people. So we didn't get to meet Kyle. Kyle, the Spartan, was going to be more of a jokester. You had Tim, who was kind of neutral, kind of average, normal. And then you had Kimbo, who was very, very aggressive. And then you were going to have Kyle, that was going to be much more, lighthearted. Like I had mentioned, the brutes are going to continue. We're going to continue chasing after the Spartans. The brute chieftain could not end up meeting up with them personally. Like, he kept sending groups that kept intercepting the Spartans and kept getting wiped out by the Spartans and the elites, but they couldn't ever seem to get to them himself to actually really just overrun them. They end up laying a trap. It ends up getting the Spartans pretty much. Well, that they run back in. I remember now. They meet up with the UNSC, the last remnants of the UNSC, and they say, look, there's another base. There's going to be 1 or 2 last Pelicans off the planet. And those Marines decide to stay to hold the line. And Kimbo volunteers to stay behind and help, which, Tim doesn't want because they're friends. But Kimbo's like, look, man, you need to go. You have something that's far more important to get off the planet. I'm going to stay here and hold the line. Now, Kimbo, a little bit was in the part 2, I believe it was, that we got to kind of see a little bit more of his kind of violent, dry humor, but also a little bit of his combat skills. And back then I was not very good at doing anime. Not that I am now, but back then I was really rough. But Kimbo would be like if you took the entire team of the Expendables and put them into one guy. That was pretty much, now that I've made this before the Expendables existed, but I mean, that's kind of like, he's just like the best skilled Spartan that I had ever heard about in any of the lore. Just incredibly skilled and gifted at taking alien life. Just crazy skilled and dangerous. So him being part of the last remnant of the UNSC to hold the line to help make a way for Alfred to get off the planet, was a big deal. So then the Covenant end up overrunning that. Tim thinks that he died. So as Tim and them are leaving, the elites at some point decided that they were also going to stay behind, that they were going to end up kind of trying to remember the name of the elite. I don't think I can remember it. There was the elite leader and another group of elites were actually going to go and try to buy time to get the rest of the elites off the planet, because basically, if I remember correctly, this happens right during the Civil War of the Covenant, but I don't think the rest of the elites yet knew that the Covenant was going to betray the elites. I think that's how I had it. So the elites, it was more important not only that the elites got off the planet, but that at least one of them was able to get the message that they had been betrayed by the brutes and the prophets, to be able to get that off the planet to the rest of the elites so that they could start the rest of the Civil War. I think that was actually how it was. It was a preemptive wipeout of the elites, and that was going to lead to a full-scale removal of power, where you had the Shipmaster and the Arbiter later on in the story for Halo 3 and Halo 2 take their roles. So I'm sorry, I think I was actually mistaken. I think this was like right before Halo 2. So the elites were really, really serious about that. We've got to get a message to our people, because it's going to, millions and millions of our soldiers are going to die. So the shipmaster, or I think it was a captain or something of the elites, decided to take the bulk of the last of his people that were on the planet, and they were going to go and attack the Prophet themselves. They end up attacking the Prophet, buying the Spartans the time. They actually kill the Prophet and get the ship destroyed. They all died as well, but they actually were able to destroy the Prophet and completely, shake up the hierarchy that was on planet, which, brutes aren't exactly good at leading. They're pretty much only good at, growling. So that was kind of the thing there. So then once Tim believes that Alfred's dead, he doesn't want to, or not Alfred, Kimbo's dead, he's shaken up by it because that's his friend, and him and Kyle are still making their way. They end up getting to the last outpost that the UNSC controls. Sergeant Major Johnson is there. Now, Sergeant Major Johnson, as a side note, I wanted to have Sergeant Johnson there, but I also knew that he couldn't be there. So I decided, because I already had a figure for Sergeant Johnson, I was actually going to say it was his cousin, and they looked surprisingly exactly alike. So it was my way to have Sergeant Johnson there without actually having to have Sergeant Johnson. So during the last fight, the brute chieftain is there. The rest of the main brute force is there. They're just hammering, trying to take them out. Pelican's there. As Tim tries to make it there, the brutes intercept them, get in front of them, and they're just overrunning everything. And at the last moment, when you think all is lost, Kimbo shows up. He wasn't actually dead, and just destroys the rest of the group there. And before, they're still being overrun, the rest of the elites, there was like 2 or something that were going to still be with Tim. They end up being sacrificed to try to keep them going and try to pass on, send a message to our people. We're being overrun. We were betrayed by the brutes. Get it out there to the rest of them. So they're like, okay, you helped us out. We're gonna getting on the Pelican, and then I believe Sergeant Johnson was killed right before they were able to take off. They end up getting off the planet, and then the 3 of them and Alfred make it with like just a handful of Marines, as the rest of the post is just overrun, and they do end up getting off the planet. It wasn't, the whole series was a bit of an experiment. I had never done anything like that. It wasn't supposed to be super long. It wasn't supposed to be some kind of just major motion picture. It was just like something for fun that I really did enjoy doing. And the characters were not super deep. The story wasn't very well thought out, but it was fun and it was entertaining. And I would urge anybody who attempts any sort of creative project, and if you're going to post it where anybody but yourself can see it, can read it, can enjoy it, prepare yourself for any sort of negative feedback, and be careful that you're not overly sensitive to any sort of constructive or positive critique. If you post something where all of the audio is constantly popping because maybe you were talking too loud and your mic was too close to your mouth when you were recording the voices, or you made an animation and it's just it needs a little bit of work. You need some practice. You know, someone's saying, look, I think this is really good as a start. I think if you keep working on your animation skills, I think you're going to be really good. Don't hear the negative of like, I think you suck. You didn't actually do a good job animating. I think you have like toes for fingers and that's why you're terrible as an animator. You know, don't let extra stuff into your head. It's just going to mess stuff up. This was a series that for a long time chased me because I kept always saying, oh yeah, I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it. I even actually redid part 1 where I started before part 1 of the original actually started, where you actually see what happened to Tim that knocked him out, and then it's going to pick right up where he wakes up, all the ODST are dead, and then it's going to just, the story was going to be retold, and it was going to be better because I had better graphic ability, as far as visual effects. I was a better animator. I was actually building real sets rather than kind of just cobbling together a bunch of little boxes and other crap that would go together, which looked really bad when I watch it now. But when I first started, it was just for fun and it was something exciting. I was just so excited to get in there and tell the story that I wasn't so focused on, well, how does the set look? Should I paint it? Should I actually build little plants and put blood on the ground and spent ammo casings? And should I really try to really do this, or just kind of just have fun and just get into it, which is what I did. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this. If you guys have any questions specifically to certain things that I didn't mention in this kind of outline of the story, let me know down in the comment section and I'll try my best to be able to answer them. If anyone was interested, I actually was planning to create a second story after New Beginnings, which was going to still take Kyle, Tim, Alfred, and Kimbo onto another adventure, basically where they leave off after the Pelican takes off, and they go to a different planet. And the planet's kind of, if I remember correctly, the planet was, it was a UNSC planet, but there was like nobody there. So then they're like, well, where's everybody at? So there was a whole other mystery and adventure that was going to go from there. But not everything on YouTube has to be grand. Not everything on YouTube has to be this professional level, And I watch a lot of YouTube now, and there's so many amazing animators. When I was doing animations, there was like 3 really good guys, and now there are so many people that are just phenomenal. They're fantastic. And I don't want that to discourage anybody from actually trying and getting out there and doing it. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. I'd be happy to answer as best I can. And thank you guys for watching and for subscribing and for supporting this channel from like 2008 on to 2016. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. And what could have been, right? Could have been. Anyway, see you guys.